So let's start this conversation with where we've come in the course of 2020, 2021, the unbelievable journey that was, how that changed us as organizations, how it forced so many of us, certainly in the heavy civil space, to start doing video calls when we never may have considered them before. What's interesting about this, and the studies have shown this, is many organizations, and certainly many of those organizations that we sell to, do not want to go back to the way they were being sold to before. Now, this isn't necessarily music to the ears of salespeople, but the truth is, many companies, they did not fully understand the power of video sales calls and underestimated its efficacy before COVID. Some are still experiencing this problem. So, for example, many companies believed one of the major myths was that closing rates, sales closing rates, were going to be lower if we were meeting with customers over video. Now, across the board, because during the entire COVID period, I spent almost all my time training sales teams, many of which actually were in the construction space. On this very subject, what we have found is video selling. In other words, meeting with a prospect over video using video technology to enhance the sales process, that closing rates go up. Question is why? Now, this doesn't mean the individual meetings per se are more effective than they would have been. But when you embrace a culture of video selling, why do the closing rates oftentimes go up? The biggest factor we have found is logistically things are smoother. And let me give you an example of what we're talking about here. Has there ever been a situation where somebody in your team was delayed meeting with a prospect on site because logistically they just couldn't get out? They weren't in the area, they had another visit that they had to do, they tried to do it in combination with another, and so that causes delays. Delays are the death of sales and customer experience. And so what we have found is when you can be first to have deeper conversations, in fact, they've done studies on this, they found that the company that is first to have a deep conversation with a prospect wins the bid 70% of the time across the board in B2B organizations around the world. 70% of the time, the company that is first to have the conversation, the deep conversation, wins the bid 70% of the time. Now, you might say, I don't think it's like that in our industry. Well, that's fine, but there is clear correlation. And again, if I said, would you rather be first? You're like, yes, I want to be first. We always want to be first. And so this meeting over video allows us to logistically remove issues and be with them face-to-face first, which brings us to our next point. Many people said this wouldn't work because it's not face-to-face selling. Yet we've now realized that meeting with a prospect, meeting with a potential candidate over video is face-to-face selling. There happens to be two types, my friends, of face-to-face selling. One is in person. One is over video. Now, like you, I love in person, but certainly from a logistical standpoint and from the benefits, I appreciate virtual for what it is. Now, our conversation here isn't about let's eliminate the way we were selling as we know it. No. It's let's take the best of that and let's add, enhance it by what we can do. But as an organization, we need to have the conversation of face-to-face happens in two versions, two ways. Now, another one of the issues that we've seen many face is they say things like, well, I'm in a relationship-based business. And because I'm in a relationship-based business, this whole video selling ain't for me. It ain't for us. It ain't for our organization. But once again, let's analyze it for a second. In the past, oftentimes we were limited with the amount of in-person visits we could do with a customer. So you might have a customer that you could meet with once a year, maybe once a quarter if you were lucky. But, and this assumes that we bring value when we do this, but what we have seen with virtual selling for the sales professionals that have really embraced this mindset, that they're able to meet more often because it requires less of the actual customer. So if a customer knows that you're going to meet with them on site, they have to allot more time. It's more of an investment on their part. Whereas if you're going to meet on video, you can do that in 30 minutes and they can move on with the rest of their day. And so in terms of that relationship, you can have more touches that are face-to-face. Now again, in a perfect world, we're integrating the two. But without question, we shouldn't be saying that video selling hurts relationship-based sales. It's not true. I've had some of the most relationship-based industries in the world tell me, yeah, Marcus, we realized that we don't have to close deals on golf courses anymore. Now, it doesn't stop there. Because in this industry, oftentimes we're saying, the folks in this space aren't ready for video. Or what if they're on the job site? The thing about it is, at this point, we've done a quantum leap in terms of our familiarity with video. The majority of your customers have now used video. Their kids have been using video for school and video conferencing for school. They're using video conferencing to meet with medical professionals and doctors and nurses, etc. And if they're doing it, we sure as heck can do it in our space as well. Will it be used every single time? No. Will there be moments when it's not ideal? Yes. Will there be moments when we have to meet on site? Yes. Do we have to meet on site as much as we were meeting before to achieve the same, if not better results? Absolutely not. This we know to be true. So the question is, when we have those calls, what are the best practices? Well, turns out there are 12. And that's what we're going to cover now. The 12 best practices of delivering a world-class video sales call or video conference with a customer.